Hello, my name is Martin Kostov. I'm the co-founder of Tornado Studios. We help you, museums, galleries, and cultural institutions to present cultural heritage in an interactive and engaging way without sacrificing the historical authenticity. So what then is the key? The key is not just to inform, but to transform the visitor experience. People nowadays are expecting more than the traditional static displays. They are looking for interaction. They are looking for digital content. If we want to capture their attention, we need to give them emotion. We need to engage them. And we need to give them a personal experience. You are the safeguards of culture, of history, of knowledge. And modern 3D technologies can be the bridge between history and the hearts of the younger generation. There are different ways to create this bridge. In this presentation, I'm going to show you 4 of these ways: 3D reconstructions, educational stories, interactive applications, and tactile models. We begin with 3D reconstructions. The idea is to bring history back to life, to not just show ruins, but to show reconstructed cities, castles, holy places, to show them in the way that they probably looked back in their day, in their prime. I'm going to show you a few different reconstructions that we have been involved in so that you can get an idea of our capabilities and what we do. The first that you see here, this is a medieval town, the medieval town of Cherven. It's in Bulgaria. So as you can see, this fortress was reconstructed to the way that it looked back in the 14th century. People can put on the VR headset and they can travel back through time. They can walk on the streets of this medieval fortress, learn more about its history, interact with it. Here is another example. This is a reconstruction of a monastery, a rock-hewn monastery that is part of the UNESCO World Heritage. First, you see how the monastery looks right now. So it's in a very bad shape, unfortunately. And here is how the monastery looked back in the 14th century, with all of the frescoes reconstructed based on the work of the experts in the past 40 years. And here you can see a VR, you can see through the eyes of a VR experience showcasing a Roman kiln that helps people understand how the Romans created pottery, both for personal use and for industrial use. And this is a very interesting site. It's called the Lesicheri Pillar. Currently there is only one pillar that is in a very bad shape. However, we did a virtual reconstruction of how the 2 pillars might have looked back in the 2nd century. And here you can see a 3D reconstruction and an educational animation of a medieval fortification that was used by the Bulgarian army to fight the Byzantine Empire unsuccessfully, I might add. Now you're looking at the reconstructed forum of Heraclea Sintica, a Roman town that has suffered very bad misfortunes, being destroyed in the 3rd century. And this is how the forum of Heraclea Sintica might have looked back when it was brand new, when it was in its prime. Here you're seeing 3D reconstruction and a VR experience of a lost clock tower that is no longer existent. We reconstructed the tower itself, but also the mechanism within the tower that is responsible for the clock as well as for the bells. And people can now interact with this experience. They can learn more about the tower, they can learn more about the mechanism, they can start it and stop it. It's very engaging and interesting. Now you're looking through the eyes of a visitor of the ancient site of Akve Kalide, a Roman and Thracian site that was very important with its healing waters. So we're showcasing how this place might have looked back in the Byzantine period. Here you're seeing another 3D reconstruction and VR experience that showcases a medieval fortification. It's called Kaleto, and it was an important site here in Bulgaria. You can see that the visitor can explore the fortress at their own pace, learn about it, and to interact with it. By the way, now we are creating a large 3D printed and hand painted model of the same fortress. And here are a few more examples of VR experiences that showcase architectural sites the way that they looked when they were first created. One more very important project, again a VR reconstruction of authentic street of crafts. So these are all sorts of crafts that were popular in the 18th century and the end of 18th century in Bulgaria. People can now interact with these lost crafts to learn more about them, to basically step inside the atmosphere of the times. And one more, this is an Ottoman fortification that was in use by the Ottomans at the end of the 19th century. We did a full 3D reconstruction showcasing how the fortification looked, how it functioned, and we're giving people a way to learn more about it through this immersive experience where they basically travel through time and feel the authentic atmosphere of this period. Now we're moving to the educational stories. These can be animations, shorts, these can be documentaries that their idea is to capture the attention of the visitor, especially younger generations, to help them to learn history in a way that is closer to their hearts. So visually engaging and interesting and showcasing exhibits and stories in a way that capture their attention and hold it for a longer period of time. I'm going to show you a few examples. This is one of the most famous Thracian treasures. This is the Panaguriste treasure. As you can see, we've created digital twins of the treasure in extreme detail. Everything here is done by hand. Scanning of the exhibit is only the first part of it. It's no more than 5 to 10% of the whole workflow. Everything that you see here, in order for it to be beautiful and engaging, is done by hand, by experts with years and years of experience in the 3D photorealistic space. Now you're looking at another 3D animation that showcases a very important person for Bulgarian's history, an early architect that had no formal education, but yet he reconstructed churches and bridges and all sorts of 19th century wonders here in Bulgaria. Now we're moving to a very interesting educational animation that showcases the Panaguriste goldsmiths and their works of art. So this is capturing the spirit of a very important moment from Bulgaria's history and the craftsmanship of these goldsmiths. Of course, you're looking at very short pieces of these educational animations with no sound, no narration or subtitles. The idea is to communicate to you the possibilities here. Another very important project that we've done, showcasing some key exhibits from the Museum of Panaguriste. I earlier showed you the VR reconstruction or the VR experience of Acque Calide. This is the same place, but now showcased in an educational animations. You can see the roofs are removed in order to talk about the different spaces within the Roman Terme and to explain to the visitor how such a place operated. And you're seeing here digital doubles and educational animations of some very interesting objects, exhibits. These are the giant crystals from the National Museum Earthen Man here in Bulgaria. These are giant structures weighing several tons, and we're presenting them here in this beautiful and engaging way, telling their stories. Earlier, I showed you Heraclea Sintica, the Roman town. Now you're seeing a few of the exhibits that were found there. These are digital reconstructions that we created into educational animations. And we're now jumping to another museum that we worked with. These are all important exhibits that are related to the mining history of this particular town. We created this series of educational animations so that the museum can travel and can showcase these exhibits to other parts of the country and abroad without having to take the physical exhibits with them. A few more examples of 3D animations and reconstructions. This time we're showcasing the rich history of a Bulgarian town that had all of these interesting buildings and monuments that no longer exist. So we're bringing them back. We're showcasing how they looked back in the 1930s. And this is an important piece of the story of this town. Here you're seeing that we're presenting the city garden, how it looked back in the 1930s. So right now it does not look like that, but back then this is how the monuments and the fountains and everything looked, and we're showcasing it to preserve the memory of these times, to tell the story in an extremely detailed and engaging manner. You can see for yourself the level of detail and photorealism of these 3D reconstructions. These are not just scans. These are done by hand by experts with many years of experience in order to make them realistic, to make them look like they're the real object and not a 3D reconstructed model. Now we are using a 3D digital avatar to showcase a set of Thracian gold treasures. These were found during excavations, and it's believed that this noble woman that you see here on this animation was burned after her death, was burned with these golden treasures, and they were later found. So we 3D reconstructed them here, and we showcased them in a beautiful and engaging way. A few more examples of this is a horizontal womb that was very typical for the 19th century Bulgarian households. We created this digital twin in order to showcase it, to showcase the loom in the new exhibition of the museum. The loom was too big in order to fit in the new exhibition, so we did a digital reconstruction in order to be able to tell its story. And these are a few more examples of exhibits for this same museum that we captured in minute detail and presented them in educational animations. Finally, you're seeing a few shorts of basic animations that are meant to be shown to kids of strategic battles that were done in the region near Sozopol and Pomorie in Bulgaria. So these are parts of two different stories. One is of Greek times, when these parts of Bulgaria were Greek, and the later animations, the first one actually that you saw was a medieval battle that took place near there. And one more example to showcase the power of 3D reconstructions. This is the famous Luger pistol that was used in both world wars. It's you're seeing a digital double here that is presented in extreme detail. And this animation, it's something very special. It actually showcases a Roman officer's funeral. This interesting site was uncovered during excavations, and it was found that the Roman officer was buried with all of his treasures, his weapons, as well as his carriage and the horses. And we did more than present the burial site. As you see right now, we represented the ritual in this animation, the ritual of taking the deceased person to his final resting place, and the way that this happened in the necropolis back in the 2nd century. Now we are moving to a documentary that we created for a very special ritual that is almost lost to history now. It's the ritual of the sokai. So this is a traditional bride in clothing that we represented in an educational animation in order to preserve it for the next generations. And finally, I want to showcase a short example from a longer documentary that we created for the museum locations in Treavna, Bulgaria. So it's an area with extremely rich heritage. It has 9 different museum buildings, and we created a documentary that tells their story. The idea is to create a product for potential tourists to see in order to find out more about Treavna, to find out more about its rich heritage, and to want to visit this place, to travel to this location, to immerse themselves in the culture, the rich culture there. And this is, as you can see, a beautifully done traditional type of documentary. Now we're moving to the next pillar of building this bridge between between history and the hearts and minds of visitors, the interactive applications. The idea is to turn knowledge into an adventure. You're going to see a few different examples of interactive applications. These are all recorded from our internal touchscreen display in our office. This is where we test out all of our applications before delivering them to our clients. So what you're seeing on the screen here, it's a very, very interesting and unique exhibit. It's called the Perpetual Calendar. So this is basically a calculator of moving holidays that was created at the end of the 18th century. And as you can see, we created an interactive application whose job is to present this calendar, which is very difficult to understand, to present it in a way that is easy for people to engage with, to learn more, to explore at their own pace. You can see that the different sectors of this calendar, they jump on the screen, they are presented in 3D. So the idea here is that we capture the attention of the person who is viewing the exhibit, and we focus it on one specific area. This helps to guide the visitor through this educational experience instead of being overwhelmed with everything they see all at once. This next one is another very interesting interactive application that we created for the National Anthropology Museum here in Bulgaria. So you basically become the anthropologist. The visitor can become the anthropologist, and your goal is to explore a medieval skeleton that you find during excavations. And again, this interactive application's goal is to help transfer knowledge of an area that is difficult, a subject that is difficult, such as anthropology, to transfer this knowledge in an interesting way, especially for the younger generations. So we're teaching them how to explore the different parts of the skeleton, how we learn more using different tools. For example, right now we are exploring the pelvis, and the idea is that we must choose whether this was a male or a female pelvis based on its characteristics. We then move to measuring certain parts, certain bones, in order to understand this person better, to understand if their height, but not only that, if they had any skeletal abnormalities, etc. And we are actually finding some during this experience. I have the feedback from the National Museum that this interactive application is extremely popular with children, teenagers, and families. So we actually created a large table for them to use this application, and it's a complete blockbuster in the museum. Now you're looking at a 3D reconstruction of a medieval fortress that is partially explored. As you can see, only some of the buildings are showcased in this 3D reconstruction because the fortress is not fully explored and excavated. In the application that we created, we give people the opportunity to explore at their own pace, to learn about the castle, its history, how it might have looked back in the day, where there might be additional buildings that are not yet explored, and the importance of this site. When was it created? What was its history? When it was destroyed? So you can see it's a beautiful, visually engaging experience that helps people to engage with learning about this fortress and not just passively observe a narrative. And in the last example of the interactive applications, we again have an archaeological site that we reconstructed. This is a basilica that is very hard to access right now. It's actually not socialized, so people are having a very hard time to explore this basilica. And even if they do manage to visit the place, what they see there are only ruins. However, with the help of this interactive application, we not only help people to learn more, but we also showcase the basilica in its prime, how it might have looked. And as you can see, this is how it looks right now. You can see the photographs of the remains of this basilica. And in the application, you can also look inside and understand more about the structure of the interior, how it was used, and its importance. So this is everything for the interactive applications that I have prepared for you. I move on to the last section, and these are the tactile models. The idea here is that we're making cultural heritage accessible to everyone. And I'm going to show you a few shorts of 3D printed and hand painted doubles, physical doubles of exhibits that we have created. At this moment, we have probably more than 100 exhibits that we have created in this way. These are all meant for visually impaired visitors. So people who are visually impaired, they cannot really see the exhibits, their uniqueness. However, when creating such tactile models, we can give them the opportunity to basically see by touch, to understand what they're seeing, and to talk to them more about history and its uniqueness. And currently you're seeing a 3D reconstruction, basically a 3D model that we hand painted and created for the National Science Museum here in Bulgaria. This is the reconstruction of a dodo bird. And these 3D printed and hand painted models, they are extremely detailed. As you can see, they're basically exact doubles of the real exhibit. The only difference is that these are lightweight. They can be given to visually impaired people to touch, to explore, but also they can be given to children and visitors. Children love to touch within museums, but they're usually not allowed to, which is a big mistake because we're sacrificing their engagement in this way. Earlier I showed you a few examples of the Panaguriste goldsmith heritage. Here you can see an example of one of these models, 3D printed and hand painted, an exact double of the model. And here are a few more examples of this same exhibits. These are static shots, of course, showcasing the final assets that are now in the museum and are given to people to explore, rather than not being able and only watching the priceless exhibits behind the glass. And in this final part, you can see a short clip that showcases the way that we do this, the work that goes into creating all of these tactile models, as well as 3D printed models that are then exhibited within the museums. Here are a few examples of completed diorama models that we have produced for different museums. So this is everything that I have prepared for you today. I hope that this presentation has given you a bit more context about what we do, how we can help you, how we can give you the tools to engage your audiences. If this presentation inspired you, if you liked what you saw here, feel free to contact us or scan the QR code, book a session with us, and we can talk about your particular goals and how we might help you to create such experiences for your visitors. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.